in the San Joaquin Valley has got my organization very busy. We have been very, very busy the last 3 days distributing N95 masks to agricultural employees up and down the valley to deal with the bad air quality there. So it's been a pretty crazy time. Hate to begin with a sad note, but I'm going to ask for a brief moment of silence. Our district governor, Joy Anderson, lost her husband this morning. He passed away after a illness. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and give a brief moment of silence for him in recognition. And with that said, Joy will be likely, she's scheduled for the end of October to join us virtually. I'll keep you updated. I'm not quite certain that might change now at this point, but she does plan to visit the club at some point here in the next coming months. With that said, we are going to mute everybody's mics at this time. If you need to speak, please don't feel free to unmute at this point. But as we've been doing for several weeks now, I wanted to introduce our I guess you would say Rotarian board member of the day or Rotarian board member of the week that we are doing these introductions with that. Mr. Jim Ford, I know you're on there somewhere. I saw you. You may not be visibly on here, but I know your voice is on here, right, Jim?
I am there, Ryan.
Fantastic. I thought I saw you there. Well, great. Well, you're going to give me 1 second. I'm going to talk real slowly right here as I bring up this share screen. And people are probably wondering what the heck's going on here. Let me see here. So Jim, we got this. We got some pictures up here, and I don't know which one we're going to start with first. But apparently, you like to go duck hunting, is it, or something about ducks?
You're funny, Ryan. I am a proud University of Oregon Duck, so. That's why I sent you that picture, and those in Rotary that know me well know I bleed green and yellow. Fresno State is my adopted team here, but I'm still a season ticket holder up in Eugene and have been throughout most of my career. I actually started up in Eugene. The other picture I sent you was I have been golfing since probably my junior high days back with my dad. And I finally, in 2017, got my first hole-in-one. And while a lot of golfers spend their entire life golfing and never getting a hole-in-one, this almost didn't happen. I was at a conference and I had a half a day free. So I decided to take my clubs and run over to Bennett Valley and play around. And I got there and there wasn't very many people there. And so I got out to the first tee and I was scheduled to tee off by myself. And I get someone yelling in my backswing on the first tee box. It's the pro shop saying that they've got someone that would like to join me. And I said, sure. And turns out he's a longtime Bennett Valley golf member or a longtime person that's played there. So he and I chatted it up and we had a great time. And then we get to the sixth hole. And it's a par 3, and he tells me what to do, and I go ahead and do it. But there's a big tree that blocks most of the green, so when you tee off, you can't really see the shot. And he yells at me and says, "That's a hole-in-one." And we get down to the tee box, and I was sure it was not a hole-in-one, so I immediately went behind the green, down into the ditch, looking for my ball. And he walked up and he pulled it out of the cup, and he said, "I told you it was a hole-in-one." So I'm proud to say I joined the hole-in-one club, but my wife, who's only been playing for 20 years, now has 2. So I have work to do to get there. So that's a little bit about me and some fun facts about me.
No, I appreciate it, Jim. And how long have you been over at Central Valley Community Bank now?
7 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
They've put up with me this long.
And are things a little more, I would say regular, but are things a little bit better? I know you guys were slammed there when obviously the business loans were going out.
Yeah, during the PPP loans, we had people working. I think the latest we were here on one of the nights was 4 a.m., believe it or not. And we worked both weekends in that round 1 when the money was just flying out of the government coffers. Wasn't quite as bad on round 2 because things had settled down a little bit there. But My team here, it's times like this that you really see people step up, and we have such great team members here, many of which are doing things that are not in their job description, but they're doing them because we need them to do them in this weird environment that we're in to take care of our clients.
No, exactly. No, we appreciate that. And how long have you been Rotarian here in Fresno?
See, I joined in I think 15.
Okay.
Sid Cox and Ed Darden started in on me in February of 14, and I think they finally got me into the club in 15.
Well, fantastic. Well, we're glad they did that because we appreciate all you do for our club, and definitely appreciate being a board member this upcoming year.
Glad to do it.
Well,
Thanks,
Jim.
Mike.
And with that said, we'll continue our weekly series with our board members here in the coming weeks. But thank you, Jim. Appreciate all you do. We will now move on to our speaker of the day, Ms. Liz Harrison, or also on here, Liz Allen. You can explain the difference. But Liz, we are so excited to have you join us today. I think we got the most creatively, titled deal today, in the sense that it's dropping the mic, 30 years of telling the Valley story. And Liz did an amazing job of doing that. And so we're so excited to have her today. And so Liz, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thanks for joining the Rotary Club of Fresno.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be here today. This is kind of an interesting format for me, one that I wish that I had had 38 years ago when I was first asked to speak at a Kiwanis Club meeting, which they just assume that if you're on TV, you know how to speak to a group. And it was pointed out to me after the fact that I'd never said so many oohs and ahs and ums in my entire life. But 38 years later, here I am. A lot of people were wondering why I retired when I did. Well, I'm old. Relatively, I'm 60. I turned 60 in December. But 3 years ago, I pretty much had made a plan. My husband and I have been raising our 6-year-old grandson since he was just a year old. And I really wanted to be able to have a more flexible schedule. So a couple years ago, I did talk to my boss and asked him if I would be able to change my schedule at work. Instead of working nights where I was gone from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight, I asked him if I could work days so I could be at home at night and put my grandson to bed. And then I realized, you know what, I'm just getting too old to be doing any of this. And I would say that the coronavirus really confirmed that. A lot of people don't realize what goes into a live broadcast. One thing I will say, during coronavirus and all of the technology and whatnot, it puts all of us at a level playing field. All of the national anchors, all the anchors in big markets, and anchors even here in Fresno. It is a huge technological responsibility for the individual. Just to give you an idea of what my day was like before I retired in June, I woke up early in the morning. I would start my day at 8:30. I would get on the computer, I'd look at the day's news. I would help write the midday newscast, which started at 11 a.m. That was if all of my video and audio portions of my Delete computer program were working. And if they weren't, I spent minutes, sometimes lots of minutes on the phone with our IT department trying to figure out how I could get all the technology to work. Then 20 minutes until the beginning of the newscast, I would have to put on my lighting, adjust my lighting, get my computer ready. I had to level the audio. I had to make sure the video level was okay. I had to dial in to the station engineering department to make sure that I was on the proper Skype. Then I had to dial in again. We have what's called an IFB that we wear in our ears where we can hear the director giving us signals, and then make sure that our teleprompter was set up, which we ran ourselves. If I had an opportunity to look at my scripts ahead of time, I was really, really lucky. Otherwise, I just flew by the seat of my pants and was running my prompter with my little mouse right here. Sometimes I would lose my connection to my IFB. Sometimes the Skype connection would go out. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to hear the other anchors. So have mercy on those that are still on the air right now, because it's really, it's a lot of bowls to balance in the air all at once, let alone look like you're doing a good job of just giving people the news. So that was really enough for me. I had already decided to retire, but a lot of people were saying, oh, you can work from home, it's so easy. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So anyway, 3 years ago, I started doing some online classes with the John Maxwell Corporation. John Maxwell, if you don't know, is a very, very well-known leadership speaker, teacher, writer, and I have been learning under his books and his teachings over the last 3 years about leadership and about what makes each of us tick, how we can get along better with each other in a group. I have done some coaching, personal coaching, business coaching, just life coaching. And I decided that in 3 years' time, I wanted to be able to leave the television business and have a business of my own. Well, you tell God your plans and you can hear him laugh. That's a famous Woody Allen saying. And little did we know that we would be doing distance learning starting in March with my grandson who was in kindergarten. And then in July of this year, we listened to a town meeting with Clovis Unified and discovered that the kids were all going to be doing distance learning, including the kindergartens and the first graders. So my husband and I decided that we would disenroll from Clovis Unified, and we would go with an independent homeschool study program. And it's been one of the best things we've ever done. There's a lot of hands-on teaching. And I have to acknowledge my husband is the better teacher than I am. I am the administrator. I'm the one who sets up all of the assignments and prints out everything that needs to be printed out, all of the tactile learning things for my grandson, and my husband does most of the teaching, but we don't use a computer at all in the main teaching. If we want to supplement with a computer program, we can do that, but it's been a wonderful experience. I could say that my husband's not here, so he can't chime in now, but he's been a great partner in all of this, and we've had our hands full. So what I hoped to have been doing by this time was I retired on June 12th. We had planned to, my husband rides a motorcycle, and he had purchased a hog that he could ride cross country. He was going to be on his way a week after I retired. My grandson and I were going to meet him on the East Coast. I have a lot of family on the East Coast. We were going to spend about a month traveling, and we've seen Save Mart grocery store many, many times. That's our weekly outing, basically. We haven't gone anywhere really. We went over to the coast for 3 or 4 days in July, but for the most part, we have been right here in the know, and it's a really different time. I did not expect to be homeschooling. I didn't expect to have to stay in my own hometown. My husband has asthma, so we've had to be really, really careful about his exposure to corona. And I don't know if you all know, but I actually had the coronavirus back in May. I was supposed to go in for a procedure, and they did the test on me, and I was thinking, no big deal, because I didn't have any symptoms at that point. And the day of my procedure, they called me and said, you can't come in, you have the coronavirus. I'm like, what? So I quarantined at home, and I ended up coming down with some of the symptoms after about 3 or 4 days. I had the worst headache I've ever had my entire life. I had a low-grade fever, and I still have, I still get out of breath when I climb the stairs too fast in our house. We have a 2-story house. So that's basically what's been going on with me. My good friend Jerry Dyer, who soon will be our mayor, said to me when he retired, you know, there's really no good time to retire, or there's no good time to retire, but there is a right time to retire. And I really felt that it was the right time for me to retire. I wanted to go out while I was still feeling fairly healthy. I wanted to be able to do something that I had never done before. My business is starting out very slow, as you can imagine, because I've got a lot of things going, and Facebook has not helped a whole lot, because I did have a business page on Facebook, which got unpublished a month after I published it because they felt that I was trying to impersonate Liz Harrison. Go figure. I don't know. So anyway, we're going to try again in a couple of weeks. We're going to launch another Liz Harrison page. Liz Allen, by the way, is my married name. I started working in TV before I actually got married the first time, and the news director wanted me to use the name Liz Harrison, and that was my given name, Elizabeth Harrison, and I've just used that name all the way through. But my married name is Allen, and so that's why that pops up on the screen. So that's about all I can tell you at this point. I did have a wonderful career. I'm so thankful to have spent all 30 plus years here in the Central Valley. It's very rare that somebody quits TV and then comes right back to the same job after being off for 8 years, which was really incredible, but I feel very blessed for that to have happened. I enjoyed reporting more than anything. Being at the anchor desk was okay, and certainly you make more money being an anchor, but my reporting assignments were really the most fun for me. And even though I got to interview people like Oprah Winfrey and many of the political candidates, which weren't all that fun, and Jaws and other Hollywood actors, my favorite stories were the people here in the Central Valley. And being able to follow them. There is a young woman that I still follow who had a liver transplant, one of the very first liver transplants back in the 1990s. And she recently had to have another liver transplant, but she is healthy and she's doing great. And I keep in touch with her. She was just a baby when she had her first liver transplant. So that's been really fun. That was a great, great story. I remember a woman that I interviewed who was on her way down to visit her son, who was getting ready to deploy overseas. And she had a horrible car accident on Highway 99. And someone, she doesn't know who, pulled her out of her burning car, and she was left on the side of the road, and her life had been saved. And the only thing left that had not been scorched in her car was a Bible that had been given to her just a couple of days before that accident. And nobody could find who it was that pulled her out of the car. And I just thought that was just a really neat story. And of course, the series of stories that I did on Captain Pete Dern, he is a remarkable man, and I loved being able to tell his story and let people know how he was doing and what he was really about. So anyway, those are the highlights. That's what's going on with me. I'm sure you guys have maybe some questions. I will leave that up to you. And I'm an open book. You can ask anything you want.
Well, fantastic, Liz. That's awesome. And so, yeah, you are correct. I got just started a third grader and a kindergartner via Zoom last week. And so
Dang.
the same headaches and everything else as everybody else out there. It's been actually better than I probably was originally thinking. And as I told everybody here last week, but I think it's the most important statement is really think of the teachers during this time, because they're struggling as much as anybody trying to figure it all out. And
Absolutely.
been quite the process. But the first question I have here, or actually I got two very similar questions, is can you discuss the changes you saw in the news business over your career?
Yes, a lot of people have asked me that, and that is probably one of the main reasons why I did get out of the business. When I first started back in 1982, first of all, it was exciting to me because this is something that I had always wanted to do. I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to go out and gather news. And mind you, when I first started, we were using typewriters in the newsroom, and ABC 30 had just converted from film to 3/4-inch tape. So I went through moving from 3/4-inch tape to beta tape to digital, 3 or 4 computer systems, doing things virtually, doing live shots just on your phone, which is incredible. But the thing that really made the difference for me over the years, I felt like we were getting away a lot from telling people's stories. I felt like we were doing a lot of court stories, a lot of crime stories. And what's really interesting is during the coronavirus, since March, we've been telling more people's stories, which I think is awesome. And I don't believe that any station will go back to the way they were originally doing things, which I think is a good thing. Journalism is telling stories. It is gathering information and disseminating that information in the most interesting way possible. And I think that a lot of newsrooms have gotten lazy, and they're just putting out stuff just as quick as they can. They have more time to fill. And I think that there's been a correction in the business, which I think is a good thing. You see more stories of people trying to make it right now, and that's what people want to see. They want to see individuals who are doing their thing in their community, people helping each other. There are organizations, there are individuals who are going out beyond their comfort zone that are helping people in their community. And those are the kinds of stories I want to hear. Those are the kinds of stories that I want to report on. And I'm glad that we're kind of heading back that direction. I say we, I'm not in it anymore.
And you actually partially addressed this, but I had a question for you, and just the amount of time that it takes to fill in news now. Because I mean, when you originally started, it was probably 5, 6, and 11.
We had a newscast at 5:30, 6, and 11. Rich Rodriguez and I started at 5:30 together. Yes. Richie's still in the business. I can't believe it. But anyway, yes, Rich and I started out together. We were like brother and sister. Nancy and John did the 6 o'clock news, and then John did the 11 o'clock news. And then we went earlier to 5 o'clock. We did 5 to 5:30. That's when we switched from CBS over to ABC. For those of you who've been around a long time, you remember that ABC 30 used to be a CBS station way back when I started. And then when we switched networks, we ran the network news at 5:30. So we went on at 5 o'clock. And it wasn't until, no, we had a noon news too. I take that back because Rich did the noon newscast. And then they started adding in a 4 o'clock news. They made the 6 o'clock an hour-long newscast. There are several markets across the country that start doing news at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you think about it, all of that time, it's cheap to put on a newscast. It's a lot cheaper than buying a syndicated program or whatever. It's much, much cheaper to put on a newscast, but you have to get the content from somewhere. And so where do you get the content from? And it was tough at first. There were a lot of online videos. There were a lot of viral videos that they were filling newscasts with. And that was lazy, if you ask me. But then I wasn't in charge. I was just, I was just driving the truck. So I think we're back to actually telling meaningful stories and things that people want to hear. They're less viral videos, not to say that there aren't some viral videos, and some of them are really fun to watch. But yeah, content is a big issue. There's a lot more what we call MMJs that are going out and telling stories without actually having a voice track in there. You'll notice there's a new offering called Localish that you can find on Facebook, but ABC 30 and all of the owned stations by ABC, by Disney, are all putting the localish stories on, and they all tell of different activities that are going on in different parts of the country. We try to keep the ones that run here to be mainly local. So yeah, a lot of content needed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things that has shifted in your career as well, is that me or anybody can now be a journalist, in the sense that, I mean, so much of local newscast is filled with videos of the person who happened to be there and had a cell phone in their hand at that given time. So
Right, especially now, because there are a lot of restrictions for some of the people who are working in the business, if they're older or they have health conditions or whatever. And we really do depend on community journalists, or we do depend on people that are there. And for better or for worse, we are seeing a lot more on the scene video. Certainly with the Black Lives Matter movement and people capturing what's going on video. It's just, I think people need to remember that everybody has a camera these days.
absolutely, absolutely. I think this is one of the more lighthearted questions I have here. Why does it seem that every local station has, during local news, scheduled commercial breaks at the same moment?
Well, let's just say that a lot of the stations follow a formula for news. And the formula for news kind of goes like this. The first 10, you try to stack your first segment of news, whether it's anywhere from 8 to 9 to 10 minutes, with the biggest stories of the day. And then you go to commercial break. And then you have what's called a B block, which is maybe not the top stories of the day, but the interesting stories of the day that are maybe a little harder focused. And so then there's a commercial break after that. And then usually you have the weather, because unless the weather is the top story of the day, but the third segment is usually the weather. And you can watch any newscast in town and they all sort of follow that same formula. That's the way it's always been. I don't know that it's going to change anytime soon, but that's why the stations have commercials basically at the same time.
No, exactly, exactly. I know that's it was kind of it was a funny joke, but it is kind of serious in the sense that it does happen that way. It's something that
Yeah.
you try to flip back and forth to catch the top news, and it's commercial break for everybody at the same given time. And that's probably the last thing I'll end on is, you talked about, you know, some of these bigger stories and some of the viral ones and everything else. And that's what's crazy, is that in any of these given packages today, there's such a life after the newscast because of the internet. And the market, your market is still the San Joaquin Valley, but that market, depending on the story, may be much larger and broader today.
Yes, absolutely. For instance, KGO in San Francisco and KBC in Los Angeles, the three of us share a lot of the same stories. And they run our stories, we run their stories. People have become a lot more regional in their news interest because we travel a lot more, we have family in different places, and we want to know what's going on. But mainly, the three of us are sharing our content on a daily basis. It helps to fill our newscast, but it also appeals to the audience because people are more mobile than they used to be, and they, you know, they're familiar with Los Angeles and they're familiar with San Francisco.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, you know, that's one thing that I'll just end with. I said I was going to end, but one more, you know, thing that I think is worth mentioning is that even during this time of fake news and everything else, is that people still see local news as a trusted source. Because I think a lot of the debate and dialogue goes at the national level, but at the local level, people still see that as their go-to source.
I can honestly say that local news still has integrity. I have been in editorial meetings every day for our station, and I know other stations try just as hard as we do. There is a level of integrity at local news that you don't have necessarily at the cable networks or even at some of the big networks. But in local news, we have an audience that we have to answer to. We meet our audience on the street. We meet them in restaurants. We meet them, you know, at the salon. We meet the people that we are doing the news for, and we have to be accountable. And if we're not, they'll tell us about it. So yeah, we have to be more responsible and we have to have more integrity.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you, Liz, so much. We're going to give you a virtual clap here. You can see a lot of people clapping. You won't hear a lot of it, but everybody's on mute, obviously. And you talked about the dynamics of speaking in front of groups. This is much different. This is way more difficult not to get that feedback that you get in a room. So
hey, if I could have done this back when I was 22 years old, it would have been a lot easier than staring face to face with my audience. So I'm just saying, where was Zoom back in 1982?
Absolutely. Well, Liz, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great discussion. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do that.
Thank you, you guys. Have an awesome day.
Great, thank you. And with that said, next week we had this as kind of a blank, a special person there to fill in. We have our own Rotarian, Mr. Mike Hamsey, who's going to give us an update on the Middle East. Obviously, there's been some very significant events developing over the course of the last couple of weeks there, and so we thought it was very appropriate and a great time to bring in Mike. So join us next Monday for Mike. As I go to another presentation that we have today, I want to mention that Anna still has tickets available for our raffle today. So you can privately chat with her on the feature here. So 1 for $5, 3 for $10, and 8 for $20. I'm trying to read through Zoom here. Thank you, Anna. But they are still available if you want to buy a couple. So you can do it through, like I said, you don't have to, you can just privately message her, shoot her a text message or whatever else there. Moving on, we actually have a check presentation today from Mr. Past President Todd. Todd, you want to take it over?
Yeah, thank you, President Ryan. Appreciate that. Lewis is with us. Lewis Santana and Chris Seitz from Reading and Beyond. I see you guys there. Are you both off mute? Or I know Lewis is at a minimum. Okay. Well, listen, on behalf of the Rotary Club Foundation, I'm excited to let everyone know that we provided a $5,000 grant to Reading and Beyond. And really, this organization targets kind of that middle group, right? You've got a lot of the kids that have computers and have internet. Then Fresno Unified finds a group, and then Reading and Beyond comes in to kind of bridge that gap on the ones that just get lost in the mix, along with some junior college kids. So Lewis, would you like to tell us a little bit about that $5,000 grant and kind of what that money's going to?
Actually, I'm going to give the opportunity for Chris. You work behind this a lot. So Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, and I want to thank everyone for this contribution. It means so much, and the timing of it is it couldn't be better because of the situation with both the school districts in the area and also our community colleges. We have programs that work with both populations. All of our participants are low income and from underserved communities. And while the colleges and the school districts have done a lot of work to get computers out to people, we know that there are some people who are falling through the gaps. And then there's also some of our programs which work with people who are trying to re-enroll in schools. And one of the barriers we have is that while the community colleges have laptops that they can loan out, they're for students. So if you're a former student who's trying to re-enroll, you can't get a laptop until you become a student. So it's a chicken and the egg problem for those participants. We have more than 70. The program started right before COVID and has done quite well considering COVID-19 is a barrier right now. So the resources you helped to provide us are gonna double our laptop library, and we're looking for more opportunities to continue to build on that because we know the need's out there. So in the near future, you're going to have Fresno Rotary laptops going out to grade school children and community college students. We're all looking to improve their station in life. So once again, thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris and Lewis. Yeah, I appreciate you guys really work for the community in awesome ways. Virtual clap across the Zoom area there. Great to partner with you on behalf of the foundation. Thank you so much. And President Ryan, right back to you.
Ryan, Ryan, can I interject something here a moment?
You may.
Joe Denham, would you unmute yourself? I hadn't talked to you about this, so this is a kind of a surprise. This is a surprise to Joe. Joe, would you unmute yourself there? Can't unmute? There you go. I was on Facebook yesterday, and I noticed a significant date in the history of your firm. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Well, last Monday, 50 years before that date, my grandparents founded Denham Resources. So we've made it 50 years.
That's just really terrific. How long have you been with the business?
10 years now, full
10
time.
years. Well, 50 years is a long time for any firm to stay in business. And why don't you tell Ryan how many rings you would like to be recognized for those 50 years of being in business?
3 rings, please.
Thank you, Joe, very much. I appreciate it. As I said, this was a surprise to Joe, and he did not expect me to call.
No, I knew. I almost hung up before you could get me.
Well, I was watching. I was watching to make sure you didn't.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Thanks,
Well,
Ryan.
we will definitely be doing more recognition. Joe, please pass on to your parents an amazing anniversary there. So appreciate all what you guys, not only just what you do for the business community, but what you do for the philanthropic side as well. You guys do a ton in the community, and we appreciate all that. So
Thank you very much, Ryan and Dick.
and with that said, we have no further business today. You're welcome to sit around. And I'm sorry, yeah, we do have kind of business. We have Anna shaking those tickets up. I would have been pitchforked out of here if I would have forgot to do the drawing. So I don't think any last minute takers, right? I saw, I know a few of you. I saw Anna busy writing after the announcement there. So with that, Anna, you want to make the big presentation right now?
Yes, thank you very much. I just need clarification from Jim Winton. It's car wash. Is that okay?
He has a car like everybody else. He has to have it washed.
I think there was an expectation that it was wine this week, and we don't have wine this week. So we'll go with what we have. Jim will get you next time. So, all right. So today's winner of the oil change and 2 car washes is Ann Abajian. Congratulations.
Hey, congrats, Ann. Ann is our big winner today, and I know she was on here. So congrats, Ann. Go get your car serviced and get it clean there.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks to Red Carpet and everyone who bought tickets.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Appreciate it all. You're welcome to stick around, talk with some friends, talk more about the fires, whatever you want to. But otherwise, for today, our meeting is adjourned.